All right, and welcome back to Political Rants with Jeff. This is Jeff, you guessed it. Hey, if you like these videos, make sure you give a thumbs up as you're watching. Hit that subscribe to the channel. We got a lot of great things coming. Also, another brand new channel will be coming. So, today we're going to be talking about systemic racism. Real, fake, I don't know. That is what we're going to discuss. Now, systemic racism. Really, there is a preponderance of evidence that racism is alive and real. It's been perpetuated, it's been fermented, it's been promoted, it's been idolized, and it doesn't come from the direction that you've been told it's coming from, because the significance of racism obviously is something that really crosses all spectrums. Doesn't matter where you come from, don't care what country you're from, doesn't matter what state you're from, doesn't matter what ethnicity you're from, because there's always going to be a little bit of that tension towards other groups. It's reality. Now, from the political persuasion, on the left will have you believe that everybody on the right, you support President Trump, you're automatically a racist, you're a white nationalist, you're a white supremacist. They created this fictitious narrative because in reality, the real racism and tension and hatred towards other people comes from the left. It's coming now very, very, very clear from Antifa, an anarchist Marxist organization, from BLM, a Marxist organization. Now, neither one of these organizations support freedom. They don't support equality. They don't support coexistence. They definitely don't support peace. And they don't support democracy. These two organizations are the epitome of fascism, of a violent ideology that perpetrates and perpetuates division, racial division, class warfare, class division. The leftist politicians have chosen which side they're going to fall on. They've decided that instead of embracing the republic, instead of choosing the democracy, they've decided to fully embrace the violent rhetoric of Antifa and this false notion of systemic racist talk from BLM. Now, we are seeing, again, systemic racist ideology that is coming out of the BLM movement, that's coming out of Antifa, that's coming out of members of government. They've done it for years upon years upon years as they've attempted to divide, whether it by race or by religion. They single out specific religions, like Jews, for instance. The Democrats automatically have really latched on to the Jews as a voting bloc. The Jews for decade upon decade upon decade have been misinformed and led to believe that the Democrats are their allies. Jews in general, generation after generation, vote Democrat because they're Jews and they're supposed to vote Democrat, which is a false narrative and false notion, just like the black community has been led astray by the leftist policies that have undermined the family structure, created violent environments in the communities, while at the same time, the leftist politicians have led the black communities to believe that these left-leaning organizations, the Democrats, actually support the black community. where in fact it's the exact opposite. Now, what we're seeing take hold from Antifa and from BLM is direct Marxism and socialism. And it's so devastating because you've seen it take root in other countries. We have a turning of the tide right now because people are waking up. People are waking up to the evil deeds of the left. People are waking up to the evil deeds of Marxism and socialism, to what the left has been perpetrating all these years through class division and race division. Not unification, but division. Now, every country's had issues. The U.S. has had issues in the past. Europe has had issues. Africa's had issues. Asia's had issues. The Middle East has had its fair share of issues. South America's had issues. Doesn't matter where you come from, there's issues. The one thing that we know for certain is that the U.S. has been and is right now the greatest country on earth. It's allowed a melting pot of people from all over the world to come together, to live together, to fight together, to die together, to uphold the freedom that is given and granted under the Constitution here in the United States, whereas the left would have you believe the exact opposite. Now, again, if you look around the world, you see what's going on in the Middle East, you see what goes on in Africa, you see what goes on in Asia, you see what goes on in Europe throughout the generations. Again, they've had their issues. Now, what's important with all of this is that we learn from history. Not just our own history, but from the history of everyone. If we don't learn from our history, then we're doomed to repeat that very history. Now, it's amazing because the Antifa and the BLM will have you believe that the right are fascist, where in fact they're embracing fascism themselves. There was this great book that was written by an author, Paul Eidelberg, back in 1994 called Demophrenia. Demophrenia is the schizophrenic nature of a democracy. You see all of the symptoms of schizophrenia within many of those on the left, especially within the BLM movement and Antifa. And as the Democrats embrace them, you begin to see the schizophrenic nature of their ideology, where they're willing to sacrifice and forego other people's freedoms because it doesn't fit into their narrative and their political ideology. Fascism. Now, the leftist socialist Dems have fully embraced fascism, socialism, communism, however you want it to look. They preach division, again, via class warfare and racial division. They've always done it this way. And this is, it's amazing because they've never been about inclusion. They've always been about division. The left has always looked down on other groups, minority groups, whether you're a religious believing individual, whether Christian, Jewish, or otherwise. Unless for some reason you adhere to Islam. And for some reason the Democrats, the left, have chosen that Islam is the one religion that they want to create inclusion over, that they want to invite into the schools and forego the separation of church and state, while they want to squash the Judeo-Christian belief. Makes no sense, but they're going to step on one to elevate another. We've seen a lot of cases of this just recently as you look around, as you see people getting squashed, as you just saw the chief of police in Seattle resign. I guess it was the first black woman chief of police ever in the history of Seattle. Had to resign because of the insanity that's going on in Seattle. The insanity in Portland. The insanity that we just saw unfold over in Chicago. And what did BLM say? BLM supported the rioters and said that it was good what they took. That it was okay that they robbed and stole from these stores. That there was nothing wrong with it. The perpetration or perpetuation of criminal thought process, of elevating one over another, over destroying other people's businesses, as they've done in riots throughout the U.S. over the past few months, destroyed individuals' livelihoods, destroyed it. Didn't matter if they're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, didn't matter what religion they were, they destroyed them all the same. It's unbelievable. The one thing that I see is the unity between the Hispanic community, the black community, the Jewish community. The unity there is that each one of these communities has been used and abused by those on the left for far too long. Now, while Americans went to the movies, football games, basketball games, and baseball games, the leftist Dems plotted and planned for the demise of this democracy. Years of undermining the black community, breaking down the family structure, pushing away fathers, creating unsafe environments and generational dependence on welfare. Lying to the community, to the people. It's unbelievable. And yet you see members within the left from the Democrat continuously attacking the Republicans and conservatives for the exact thing that the Dems are guilty of, over and over and over again. A common narrative of fear. Underline fear, because that is the common narrative. Fear of slavery, fear of concentration camps, fear of canceling immigration. Republicans seem to always be the evil ones, and the Dems always be the ones that are there to help you. Not true. But it's very interesting that when the Dems have used this over and over and over again, they find that the only way for their success is through division, keeping all groups down, apart, and keeping all groups down. Well, it's far, far too late, because this isn't the Soviet Union, this isn't China, this isn't North Korea, this isn't Venezuela, this isn't Cuba, this isn't Iran, this isn't Syria. This is the United States of America, and we're one people. Now again, we saw what happened here in Chicago. It can't stand. You can't have indiscriminate looting, destroying the security of this country. This is exactly what brought about the demise in Venezuela, in Cuba, what keeps people in check and controlled in North Korea, in China, in the Soviet Union, in East Berlin. It was the fear of one's individual, their family, the lack of security, walking out of your door and getting arrested by the Gestapo or a secret police entity very similar to that, whether it's in China, Soviet Union, North Korea, Cuba, Iran, Syria, or some of the many other countries that fit that narrative, and most recently in the past 20 years or so, Venezuela. That's not going to happen in this country. Although they want it to happen in this country, they've been pushing it to happen in this country, it won't happen. It's unreal, right? So here you have Trump again is one-upping Pelosi and Schumer and all those disgusting individuals on the left, because they are disgusting. The things that they do year after year after year after year, lying to the people, doing nothing. Now, they're both Democrats, Republicans, those of this swampy deep state that have been there for a career in politics, doing nothing for the people other than getting paybacks, kickbacks, or whatever. It's unreal. You know, that this what's happening here is right out of the books of the communist book, playbook, the communist playbook. You know, you allow the foot soldiers to do the violent work while you spread the rhetoric. It's crazy. You're stopping law-abiding citizens from living their lives. And again, you have the Black Lives Matter that's holding this rally in Chicago to support those arrested after looting. Unbelievable. It's crazy. More racism. You have, something stupid. It was a music video with Cardi B, an article I pulled up. And Kylie Jenner was on there, and and the petition was to get her off of there because she's white. So you're seeing this over and over and over again. How about Maxine Waters telling Biden that, he had to choose a black woman VP? How about the letter that was written with Puff Daddy as the number one person on the letter that threatened Joe Biden, said you have to have a black woman as your vice president? That was the narrative. Unbelievable. That's what they decide now. At that point on the left, it's okay if you single out individuals because of gender and race. Unbelievable. Not based on merit, not based on unity, working together, developing, building a country to greatness, but based on racial division. That's the left. The left has perpetuated systemic racism for decades. So if you want to look for systemic racism, look on the left, because that's exactly where it was. The party of the Jim Crow laws, the party of the KKK, the party of anti-Semitism. That's the party. That's where you look. You don't have to go that much further. I don't know. But hope you enjoyed today's episode. This is Jeff, Political Rants with Jeff. Hit the subscribe button, thumbs up, thumb down, some comments below, and I'll check you out on the next video. Until then, I'm out of here.